Okay, Director Brendan, just let me know when we're ready to roll.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, then we shall begin. Welcome to the October 4th meeting of the CB6 Transportation Committee. My name is Gene Santoro. I'm the chair of this committee. The meeting is called to order at 7:03 p.m. Tonight, we're joined by Deputy District Manager Brendan Byrne. Members of the public, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature on Zoom. If there's time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. In any case, this whole thing is being recorded and will be followed up on when and where necessary. Our beloved Brian Van Neuenhoven is taking the minutes tonight. Thank you, Brian. And we will now begin to take attendance by roll call, and Brendan will conduct the taking of attendance. Oh, there's Andrew Gross. Okay, go, Brendan.
Committee members, I will call your name and you will unmute yourselves. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. B. Dismond.
Present.
Charles Fernandez.
Present.
Andrew Gross.
Present.
Phil Napolitano.
Present.
Matt Roberts. I don't see Matt here. Gene Santoro.
Here.
Larry Shire.
Larry's right there, except that he's frozen. He's a picture. Larry.
Yeah, I've marked Larry as present.
Okay, great.
Ann Seligman. I do see you here, Ann, so I've marked you.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that wasn't unmuting me, but yes, I'm here.
You are present. Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
Present.
Ronnie White.
Present.
And James Wilson. James, I see you are present. We have a quorum.
Excellent. Okay, let's rock and roll. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and appears on the screen before you. Voila, there it is. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, Brian, you see any objections? Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from our last meeting on August 31st were also distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Okay, seeing no objections, those minutes are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB6 website. Okay, now it's the ever-beloved ground rules. First, no one may speak until granted the floor. Second, committee members, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. Some of you also just have the raise hand function at the bottom of the screen. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty and Brendan will help you out. Very important, number 3, the chat function should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. Fourth, when a committee member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. And last but not least, we are required by executive order to create a verbatim transcript of this meeting. So please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Okay. And now we go back to tonight's agenda. Where we begin at the top and go all the way to the bottom. Brendan, Matt Roberts is here.
Duly noted, I will mark you as present.
Thank you. Okay. Now we need to get back to the agenda on screen. Thank you. Okay, we've got two applications separately tendered from HJ Opco for bus stops. I'm now going to turn it right over to our old friend Patrick because he's going to explain very briefly and succinctly and on point what this is about. Thanks, Patrick.
Well, thank you, Gene, and thank you all at CB6, number one, for what you do, and participating in the community is very important. And having our issues, I want to tell you who HJ Opco is, and I think you know who I am. I'm the Community Affairs and Government Affairs person for Hampton Jitney, and Hampton Jitney is the 100% owner of HJ Opco, which was recently developed to separate some of the assets, including some the units they have, buses and the facilities. And they also, most importantly about this particular application, I'm being succinct, is and quick to the point, because they also own Sunrise Coach and parts of it in Twin Forks and other companies in Long Island. But in New York City, they purchased the assets last May of a company called Hampton Luxury Liner, which you may remember. They came before you oftentimes. We had a challenge with Hampton Luxury Liner at the time, but that's all in the past. I'm pleased to report that Hampton Luxury Liner is part of HJ Opco / Hampton Jitney Incorporated, and that's owned and operated by the Lynch family. The same operations, the same place. Nothing's changed at Hampton Jitney since it basically corporately since 1974, and it's still the same family running it. And they've still got me all these years as their community affairs and government relations person. So I'm here to tell you who we are. We are the same people with a separate name, to be compliant with the city DOT and to work with them, which we have been doing. And thank you, Colleen and TJ and everybody, Bus Stop Management. We've been facilitating the basic transfer of this former Hampton Luxury Liner drop-off 2 stops, as indicated, to currently HJ Opco / operated by Hampton Jitney Incorporated. But there are a certain number of buses operating. It's minimal, and it's seasonal on Hampton Luxury Liner. It was just a taste of how to continue that particular group of people. And frankly, it's a nice younger group. You know, it's a little bit, they were riding on those particular coaches to keep things as evenly as possible. Hampton Jitney is looking to continue to do that for them. And those riders live and ride to and from CB6. And currently, it's only 3 or 4 stops a day, be a drop in the spot. These are not pickup stops. And there are 2 at this application. And Gene, this would be what I would call it had been a pre-existing stop. It really hasn't changed. So it's a continuance of something that happened in the past. And this is somewhat procedural in our view, but we want to be here for you to answer any questions, et cetera.
Okay, so let's go into the specific stops then. Stop 1 first. Where are we again?
I'm looking at something here right now. Does it still have it? Yeah, is it up there on there, Brendan? Thank you for putting them up. Very helpful.
Right.
But this is if I'm reading this correctly. Go ahead. This is 3rd and 40th, right?
This is the one at 3rd and
50th. 50. Yeah, this is 50.
Right.
So this is a drop stop. It's a shared stop. The MTA drops hundreds of pull-ins, pull-outs up to curbside on blacktop. We're looking at 3 or 4 a day, in season, not off season, for the purposes of accommodating the people who live in CB6 to bring them home.
Okay, that was pretty succinct and on point. Does anybody have any questions? Andrew.
Sorry, not a question. I just think this makes sense. I just want to just make one point, Gene, that I like the idea that these stops, are integrated with other stops. I just think this is good thinking, and also I just have to say that Hampton Jitney does a pretty good job. So, from my observation, so thanks.
Thank you. I'll pass that on.
Okay. And Brian has his hand up.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to support this application.
Do I see a second?
Second.
Okay. Brendan, let's take a vote.
Okay. When I say your name, please say whether you are in favor, oppose, abstain, or abstain for cause. B. Disman.
In favor.
Charles Hernandez.
In favor.
Andrew Gross.
In favor.
Phil Napolitano.
In favor.
Matt Roberts.
Favor.
Gene Santoro.
In favor.
Larry Shire.
In favor.
Ann Seligman.
In favor.
Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
In favor.
Ronnie White.
In favor.
James Wilson.
Favor.
Okay, with 11 in favor, nobody opposed, nobody abstained, the resolution passes. Now we need a resolution writer.
Yes, we do. Any volunteers? This is pretty straightforward. Probably take you 5 minutes. Was that Larry's hand up?
Yes, I'll volunteer.
Thank you, Larry. Go for it. Really
Are there
appreciate
going to be one or a combined resolution that makes sense?
Since I'm not sure why they got listed as separate agenda items, but they are, so they have to be.
Well, they're separate bus stop applications. They're even though they're from the same company, they're technically separate bus stop applications.
Right. No,
That's
I
why
figured
they're listed
that.
as different agenda items.
So okay, so we're gonna need two very short resos for each of these things. If you want to do both of them, I really appreciate it because they're gonna be very short, right?
Fine.
Thank you, Larry. Okay. Now let's move on to the next one and find out what the reso is gonna say. I can guess, but I'm not gonna get ahead of us.
Here we go. It's very frustrating. Well,
Okay.
thank you, thank you again, Brendan, for identifying the stop, looking at the building house with the governor's office. And we're pleased to share the stop again. This these buses, and again, minimal seasonal, coming out of the Queens Midtown Tunnel, make their right coming up 3rd Avenue. And this would be a drop for residents and visitors and workers in CB6 at this location that we're now looking at. It's seasonal, it's minimal, it's the Hampton luxury liner. So we're the successor operator of the same stops. So I don't have to say too much about it. I think you guys have seen it. It's in the past, and it's a wonderful thing. By the way, the bus lanes identified, in the right lane. It is. I want to share all of you guys that thank you very much. Not driving a bus, but I know the guys who do, and it's very helpful to be, smooth on those dedicated bus lanes. And thank you, DOT.
Let me ask a question. Is this the same number of drop-offs as the other one and same?
Yes, same schedule. Good question, Jim. I'm sorry I didn't qualify that.
Okay. All right. Ann, your hand's up.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, it's the same routes. Is it the actual same buses?
Yes.
So it's like basically two stops, kind of 10 blocks from each other.
Correct. The other piece of this application is before CB8 because it continues to go up. It actually ends in CB11 and 96th Street. So there's different applications for those stops. This comes out of the Queens Midtown Tunnel, bringing people back from Long Island.
So I don't think it matters procedurally, but maybe that is an argument for doing it as one reso, sort of or at least they should, maybe in some way the reso should acknowledge that it's two stops on one route. It's not like it's not the addition of two different buses coming along, it's not that much more traffic.
let me suggest that.
Colleen, if I can interject, I mean, it can be just one resolution, and if, with the community with support of both sides, that's fine. You don't need to do two separate resolution. It could be one.
I was just gonna ask that question. Thank you, Colleen. Okay, Larry, so you got, you got that, so you understand how that goes. Well, are there any other questions about this before we take a vote? Okay, seeing none,
Is there a motion?
let's get a motion, please, someone.
I'll make a motion in support.
Okay, Larry?
Second it.
Okey doke. Sorry, I am a little out of it tonight, so you're gonna have to guide me through some of the procedural quirks if I miss them. Great, so now we can take a vote. Okay.
I will conduct the vote. Please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or abstain for cause. B. Disman,
In favor?
Charles Fernandez,
In favor.
Andrew Gross,
In favor.
Phil Napolitano,
In favor.
Matt Roberts,
In favor.
Gene Santoro,
In favor?
Larry Shire,
In favor.
Ann Sullivan,
In favor?
Brian Van Nieuwenhoven,
In favor.
Ronnie White,
In favor.
and James Wilson.
In favor.
Okay. There are 11 in favor, nobody opposed, nobody abstaining for cause. So the entire committee supports this bus stop application. And just to clarify, it's one resolution for the two applications, correct? Just to make sure I know what to expect.
That's right. One resolution, Larry will be writing it. Larry, if you would be identifying the company anyway during the course of this resolution. So if you want to make note, as Ann suggested at some point during the reso, that this is part of a single route, that's fine. It's not really necessary, but if you feel you can fit that in, you can do it. Okay?
All right, I'll take a crack.
Thank you.
I'm noting this for the minutes.
Excuse me?
I'm going to note this for the minutes.
Yes, please. Okay, Patrick, you have duly discharged your duty. We appreciate that. Good
Nice
luck.
to see everybody. Look forward to seeing everybody in person someday soon again too as well, Gene.
Let's hope it'll happen. Okay.
Okay, be well, thank you. In keeping with being quick, I'll say goodnight and everybody be well, take good care. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the third item on our agenda is the request from Washington Irving High School, which, as you can see, it actually has 5 mini schools in it, and they're having trouble with maintaining the school, doing school, like all kinds of school support business, because they have no space now around the school. Looks great. If you haven't seen it since the redo, the exterior looks terrific. But their problem is they have no room to operate things while they're bringing things in and out of the school, deliveries, whatever, all that sort of stuff. So this is about changing 3 parking spaces, which are on the corner of 16th Street and Irving Place, into a no standing zone from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that's basically it. Brendan, if you want to put the reso up there and maybe those pictures I sent you to show people what it looks like if they haven't seen it for themselves.
Sure. Would you like me to start with the resolution or the pictures?
Do the reso first so that they can see what it says, and then we can show them the pictures.
Okay, here's the resolution. I can scroll on down if needed, or as needed.
Yes, please.
So yeah, there you have it on the northeast corner of East 16th Street and Irving Place. 3 parking spaces to be converted to a no standing zone 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now you could, has everybody had a chance to look at it? Because we'll put the pictures up so that you can actually see the physical spot that this is going to be. Okay?
This is one of 2 photos that Jean sent to me. I can
Right.
show the other one. And
That is the corner, and that car is just about the third and a half or fourth parking space from the corner. So it'd be from somewhere in that car, that entrance, and down to the corner that the loading zone would be in place. The no standing zone would be in place. Okay, I see Andrew has his hand raised. I can't imagine why. It involves parking spaces. Okay, Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I'm the parking bad guy. Here's my question. Gina, I didn't have a chance to go deeply into this. I did look. So pardon me for if I say something that was clearly written. Is this permanent, or is this like, when I say permanent, is this on an hourly basis, so like during the operation of the school? Because I'll just continue to say that if this is a request to support the school during the hours in which the school is operating, even though it takes up, parking, which I'm a defender of, I think that's, it's not unreasonable. But if they're asking for something to be permanently removed, including after the hours in which the school is open, then I think that's unreasonable.
Okay, I'll answer your question. It is more than the hours that the school is physically open for students. It's from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. However, the staff, custodians, all those people that work in there that need the access to this space in order to be able to do what they do, they don't work from 9 to 3. They work all day. And so deliveries, whatnot, those come at times that are not necessarily between 9 and 3 either. So that's why the slippage time is there. It's not overnight. It's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. People can park there after 7 p.m. They have to be out of there before 7 a.m.
Can I just reply back with this one thing? I want to help the school. And if it was like for student drop off and all that, I'm for it. I just want to note that in the same committee, I've raised before the need to increase parking access for other types of building attendants or building workers, and people have been in opposition of that. But because it's a school, I feel like this is getting like a special read. Again, I'm not opposed necessarily to helping out the school, but I just feel like, we should be, as a group here, more, we should be consistent. If we're going to say that everybody should just take public transportation, and the janitors, if they're coming from like deep Queens or Brooklyn, then they should take the train, because that's been the attitude here. So I just feel like if that's the feeling, we should be consistent.
We are consistent.
Hi, it's Colleen. If I can interject, Jean was absolutely correct. Although the regulation is for no standing from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week, after 7 p.m., anyone can park in the spot. This school has so many other schools in its one building, and the request is not to allow for school staffers to park in that spot. They're not going to be parked there. As Jean mentioned, that request is to keep the curb clear, and the school is going to monitor that for their operations that they need. They really do need the additional space. And this is not a special request with any one particular school. We've done this we've accommodated other schools citywide with this regulation.
Understood. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. There's no special treatment, just so you know.
Thank you, Colleen. Okay, I'm not sure the order the hands went up, so I'm just going to go down the list here. B?
Yeah, so I was going to ask the question similar to what was asked before. So I can understand 7 to 7 because, things are at different times of the day. But is this for 7 days a week or 5 days a week?
It's for 7.
May I ask why?
Colleen would be better prepared to answer that than I am.
So the school has a lot of activities during the day as well as weekends. I don't know if anyone here is from the school. It would be great, or anyone from Councilmember Rivera's office, because we've been working with the school and with the council member on this request. From what I know, they have a lot of students who attend this one particular facility. There's like more than 3 schools in this one building. So they have a lot of, operations that goes on that would require the space.
So Colleen, I thought it was for drop off and pick up of materials and stuff. So I don't know that they do the drop off on Saturday and Sunday. That was my only question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't see why they would need it Saturday and Sunday. I would imagine Monday through Friday would be more practical and feasible. Is that the request? Is that what they sent to the community board?
It is.
Just
They
confirming?
requested, the request was 7 days a week. I'm happy to amend it to 5 if that's okay with you.
I think we can start with that. I mean, that
Yeah.
would be fine if the community board is willing to do that.
Yeah, I should add for everybody's benefit that I only saw
Yeah.
this for the first time over the weekend. So if I seem a little scattered and uninformed about it, that's why. I've had exactly 36 hours maybe to look at it. Okay,
Better
so
than nothing.
let's amend that reso, Brendan, to reflect this discussion and make it 5 days, 7 to 7, 5 days a week instead of 7 days a week. And if we find out, Larry's shaking his head. Okay, I'll get to you, Larry, don't worry. Brian.
I defer to Larry and you can call me next.
Okay, Larry.
Okay. In the before times, this high school, particularly the auditorium, was very actively used also in the evenings as well as the weekends. I remember going to many concerts, classical concerts in the auditorium, and CB6 has been involved with ESCR meetings, which were held in the auditorium, and all of those were in the evening. And there were a lot of materials that needed to be brought in and taken out. And certainly having a free curb space when those meetings were over, say at 10 o'clock, might be desirable instead of having residents make it really difficult for the staff to break down whatever event. If it's an orchestra, similarly, some of the instrument setups are pretty involved. So I'd like to be even more flexible than just Monday through Friday, 7 or whatever it is to 7 p.m. And if this is really set in stone, that's one thing. I'm not sure it's completely thought through.
Right. Well, the first point, Larry, is that they didn't ask for more than that. What they asked for is 7 to 7, 7 days a week. So your point's taken about some of the evening events. I get it, but the school themselves didn't go there about that. They kept it to 7 to 7. So I don't want to exceed their request.
Well, for the operation of the normal school day, what the principal would expect and be involved with, I could see that. But the school building is actually used beyond those hours.
I understand that, but since the school didn't request that, I don't want to go beyond what they've requested. If it turns out that in fact they have the same number, remember we're in the age of COVID. If they have the same kinds of events and numbers of events that they once upon a time in the before times, as you said, had, then I'm sure they can come back and we can look at modifying the request to reflect those needs. But for right now, I'd rather not exceed what they requested.
That's correct, Jean. And the school wants to balance the hours by giving back as well parking to the residents. So they don't want to seem to be, hogging up, that curbside space for 7 days a week for, 10 or 12 hours or more. So
my suggestion is to be more flexible and in the resolution offer to the DOT support if the school asks DOT to expand the hours, that they won't have to come back to us for the reason of activities that require the building.
Well, we'll see how the rest of the committee feels about that as we go down the rest of the questions. Okay, Brian, back to you.
Back to me. I don't think I have to state this as amended because we're not dealing with a resolution that passed the committee already. But as the resolution is currently stated with the 5 days a week, I make a motion for us to support this resolution.
Okay, before I go there, I see Ronnie, your hand's up?
Hi.
Okay, good.
Okay, so it says 7 days a week, 7 to 7. Is that correct?
That's what it said.
Okay.
We tentatively
I-
agreed, wait. We've tentatively agreed to modify it to 5 days a week, just so that we're all on the same page.
I do not think it should be modified. Working with commercial buildings, and if that is the request, I'm for sure that, there's a reason for that. And my questioning is along those lines. Is the space going to have a time limit for the loading and offloading? Is this the only space that has access into the building for workers or trades, so on and so forth, to come in and out of the building for projects or whatever?
This is the best entrance because it's the farthest away from the residents and businesses that are farther down the block. And that was also part of the school's thinking by wanting it to be on this corner, was to keep it out of everyone else's way as much as possible. Same thinking that went behind, trying to keep their ask to what they thought was their minimum usable needs.
Okay, so this is just a one of the main access areas for them to stage.
Mhm.
And when this is in use from 7 to 7, is it going to be coordinated with the school and say, a contractor comes in and they have to be there at 9 o'clock and they can only be there for 30 minutes or so, and then so on and so forth throughout the day, that it's timed and the slots are appointed?
From what I know of principals, that's generally how they try to run their schools, but I'm not sure I can answer any more specifically than that. We've all had the fun of dealing with contractors and know that sometimes they don't quite get there on time and sometimes things run over time. But yes, obviously they would have a schedule, and because they're running a school and they've got almost 3,000 kids in there in 5 separate schools, and so they want to interfere minimally with the main operation that they're performing, which is to educate those kids.
Okay, great. I think it should remain 7 days, 7 to 7.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Anne.
Okay, so I'm glad B raised one of my issues, which was like 5 days a week seems sufficient, rather than 7, especially on the weekends, like more people are parking and stuff. My other issue is that, strictly speaking, it seems like this should be a no parking zone rather than no standing. My understanding is that no standing, I know the way it is used, like strictly speaking, but my understanding is that like no standing zones are only loading and unloading people, not merchandise or like not stuff. And so if what we want this for is a place that, you know, people providing materials to the school, that should be a no parking zone. Otherwise, people loading and unloading equipment are not in compliance.
Colleen, you want to
So
take that?
Yeah, and no standing allows for pickup and drop off and curbside. It's for pickup and drop off and loading and unloading.
my understanding is that no standing signs apply to loading and unloading only of
And
people.
and it could be for pickup and drop off as well. Yeah.
But I'm saying of people.
You know what? I'm not going to confuse the whole issue. I would just go with what.
Well, no, but I mean, I think if what we're like saying.
What are we saying?
What I'm saying is what they should get is a no parking sign rather than a no standing.
It's-
Because if what they want is
With a no
to,
parking, anyone with a placard can use that space. And I think the reason why they chose to no standing is to, have that curbside space free up all the time during the hours that they want it.
so I mean, isn't it a problem then that the people that like the school that are like delivering to the school, they are not legitimately in compliance?
How do
Like,
you know that?
couldn't they get a ticket? I
If they're-
literally just Googled like no standing versus no parking because it was like no
Mhm.
standing means you can't stop there at all, right? And like this is what I'm finding.
Mhm.
Like I'm literally looking at like the nyc.gov, no standing during regulation during indicated hours. May not stand at this location. When regulation is in effect, you may only stop to expeditiously drop off or pick up passengers.
Okay, but still, if you're making a delivery, you can just, expeditiously drop it off as well.
Okay,
Or
that's literally not what the law says. If we want to say that's okay, like I'm okay with that, but I'm just telling you, that's that's not what the law says.
Mhm.
And I think your interpretation of the law is interesting, but it's not. It doesn't.
No, it's
Dovetail. It doesn't actually dovetail with the realities that I've seen around town or how these no standing.
well, it's actually just like what the reality of the law is. Like
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, I don't care. I will vote. I am in support of this. It's fine, but like they're gonna get tickets, and that's okay. And if as long as it's 5 days a week.
Mhm. Okay. Yes, Larry, you were shaking your head, so I'll give you a chance.
Yeah, I wish we had Bob here still.
No, Bob already called me about something else today. Thank you. No.
And Bob called me as well.
Yeah.
2 times.
What was his thought
It
on
was
this?
about one of the bus stops we just passed.
It
Anyway.
was on the bus stops. It was on the bus stops. He thought we were going to eliminate parking, and I told him no. So he was happy about that.
Okay, well, I will support the resolution as written, but not in 5. I think we ought to take a vote on that amendment.
You mean 5 versus 7 days?
That is correct.
Okay, well, we will take a vote on that. Let me just get through the last 2 questions. I see that Ronnie and Andrew have their hands up. Andrew, you go first.
I'm sorry, there was one other thing that I wanted to let everybody know about. This is right near Irving Plaza, and a lot of customers will be wanting to use those no standing spaces when they attend the concert. I don't know whether it will help the neighbors who want to come back home from work and then park the car, because it'd be late at night before they'll be able to get in there.
Usually the concert at Irving Plaza start later than 7, but okay. Point taken.
Gene, okay?
Yes, Andrew, please.
Yeah, just 2 things. One, I'm strongly in favor of the 5 days option, the 5 days, I think the 7 a to 7 p.m. I think that, look, this is a request. Again, I think B made a great point. I support that view of just giving the school not just what they want, but what is reasonable, right? Again, we're giving up parking, but for, in this case, I believe legitimate cause. And so if we have to come to a vote on that, again, I don't mind us, going that path. I just want to note, Gene, for the future, be it noted, my incredible surprise and shock that so many members of this committee are speaking out tonight in favor of parking spots and not sending the staff and students to take buses and trains from Staten Island to spend 2 hours getting to the school. So I just want to say I appreciate that consideration for the use of vehicles in New York City. I want to thank everyone because I've just never heard that before here. So really, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You have my vote, Andrew. I just want to untangle something that you have tangled in your head, which is that this is not about forcing students or teachers or anyone else to get on the subway. It has nothing to do with that. This is about the maintenance of the school.
I agree. I agree.
Okay,
We've
no, I
just
don't want to-
established, I'm just saying, Gene, we've established there are legitimate reasons to drive a car in New York City. And I just appreciate that we've agreed on that tonight. That's all.
I know. And now you can take your tongue out of your cheek and grin. Okay, good deal. Ronnie.
Yes. Has traffic been addressed, and what about enforcement after the approved hours?
I mean, Ronnie, I think all of that will fall into place once the signage is there. It's too early to tell. I mean, I'm sure my office will get calls if anyone's parked there, or, we'll have to reach out to NYPD. So, I mean, it all depends when the signage is installed. We don't know yet how, people are going to behave. I know for sure that the school is committed to make sure that the curbside is free up.
And, you have to, as far as traffic goes, you have to remember that East 16th Street, in this particular leg of it, runs from Union Square to Stuyvesant Square Park, which is basically 2.5 blocks. So the traffic isn't exactly dense. It's basically local traffic. Some people may be cutting through to get to another avenue, but mostly it's local traffic. So it's not a high density street. This should affect nothing about that.
Okay, yeah, correct. I was just concerned that when it's in use that there would be backups, but okay, I could see where it would have to be observed in real time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie. And Brian.
Yes, I just wanted to say that, we're discussing this resolution in terms of, converting this regulation for the benefit of the school building that's right there. It is a building that hosts, like you said, several different schools, is a very busy facility, needs all the support that we can give it for logistics, which is a much higher use than people parking their own privately owned cars, which there's a garage right around the corner if people want to avail themselves of it. But I just want to remind the committee and the world what is going on with parking in Manhattan, and that is parking is traffic inducement, parking is climate murder, parking is murder of our neighbors due to unsafe driving, which has been on a huge uptick lately, and that there's a lot of people in this city whose voices have been documented lately, and I'll add mine to that, that thinks that we should sharply reduce street parking in order to stop these driving inducements, and that anything we can do to reduce parking and reduce traffic and driving in Manhattan is a very good thing. And if we have to deal with people having to get here from Staten Island when we provide a free ferry for that, I'm sure that we can start to think about local leadership to drive a transition in the next 5 years, but to drive a transition to more parking in Manhattan with everything that's going on with temperatures and traffic deaths seems to me to be a little bit obscene. And I think that we should consider that perspective as well.
Thank you, Brian. I don't think anybody was really pushing for that either, but I appreciate the statement. Yes, B. You're still muted.
I can't see the little red mark. Since we didn't pass a resolution, it really wasn't as amended. So it's the document that exists, but 5 days. I would like to call the question.
Okay, I mean, I think procedurally that it might be best to decide whether we're going to go for 5 or 7 days, because then the rest of it just falls into place.
Yeah, so I was going to suggest that we vote on the amended language of 5 days, and if that doesn't work, you go to the 7.
I'll second that.
Okay, fine. Brendan, let's do that.
Okay, so just to clarify, just to make sure the vote is on this resolution, but for 5 days with this regulation.
Right. So if you support the idea that this should be for 5 days, you should vote in favor of this amendment. Larry, what is it?
I think this is backwards because we have a resolution before us that was presented. And if you want 5 days, vote against the 7-day resolution and then bring up a 5-day resolution. That would be proper.
Okay, I don't actually think that is proper, but
It makes no difference, Larry, honestly. And we have this, since we discussed it in the committee, since the committee raised the questions, we're perfectly capable of voting on modifying the resolution before we vote on the entire resolution.
Dean, can I make a motion that we change the language to reflect 5 days versus 7?
B already did that. That's what
Okay.
we're about to vote on until Larry raised his hand. So what we're going to vote on right now is modifying this resolution to be in effect for 5 days a week. So if you're in favor of that, vote in favor of the modification. If you're not in favor of it, vote against it, and it will lapse back to being the 7 days that it was originally scheduled for. Okay, I think is that clear?
That's clear.
Okay, good. Okay, Brendan, I think we can start now.
Okay, so when I say your name, please say whether you are in favor, oppose, abstain, or abstain for cause. B. Disman.
In favor of the modification.
Charles Fernandez.
Opposed.
Andrew Gross.
In favor of the modification.
Phil Napolitano.
In favor
Matt Roberts.
of the modification.
Okay, Matt Roberts.
In favor of the modification as well.
Gene Santoro.
In favor.
Larry Shire.
Opposed to the modification.
Ann Sullivan.
In favor.
Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
In favor.
Ronnie White.
Opposed to the modification.
James Wilson.
Favor.
Okay, with 8 in favor, 3 opposed, nobody abstaining, and nobody abstaining for cause, the resolution with the modification passes.
Okay, since I helped put together this reso, I will modify it to reflect the change to 5 days. And otherwise it'll stay intact as it is. Okay? I think that covers that. Thank you for a spirited discussion. Washington Irving High School, I think, will be very grateful because they do have 3,000 students in 5 schools in that building. And in some ways, from what I'm told by education professionals, which I'm not, obviously, can be a lot harder setup to run in terms of all the logistical things than having one unified school that has one staff running one school. It gets to be a tumble. So this will help them out with that as well. All righty, moving along. We've got Grand Central Terminal. I don't want to necessarily get too deep into this tonight. I just wanted to get started. Has everyone had a chance to walk the streets or take a look at those streets that were on the list that I sent out last month? I see some no's and some yeses and some people who are just still photographs, so I have no idea what they did. Okay. Did anybody get any ideas about what they thought would be appropriate or things they might want to do about these particular streets? Of the people who did get out there and walk around. Ronnie's saying yes. Ronnie, did you get an idea, or does that just mean you walked around?
I'm sorry, I was laughing. Because I got a chance to walk around, and I'm looking forward to hearing everyone else's ideas.
Okay, well, I'll go first with the sort of south end of this. I went up last week to the Park Avenue and took a look at those medians that are up there in the upper 30s that are in our district. Really nice pieces of potential green that are covered with sort of trimmed but too much English ivy, a remnant of the 1950s, I guess, and some trees. And lo and behold, they have wrought iron fences around them, but those fences have gates. Once upon a time, people used to be able to walk in there and even sit. So one of the things that I'm thinking about as I look through this is potentially reopening those very things to public use in some form. I believe there's a local group that tends these medians, so we would have to talk with them. I haven't done that yet. But it's a nice little bit of oasis green in the middle of the city that, you know, without doing too much to make a big imprint on that, you don't want to do that, but there are spaces you could create, a small path you could create, permeable surfaces, all that sort of stuff where people could just see at one end of this thing. I saw people sitting on that, climbing over the fence and sitting on those concrete abutments. We could put this to use for people, again, without trying to crush to death. We don't want to do that, but we do want to allow people to have some options. That was one thought I had. And now I see Larry and Andrew have their hands up, so let's move along from me. Larry first.
Okay, I like the idea very much. However, I'm familiar with what's going on right now in Lower East Side and Sarah Delano Park, which is between Christie Street and Forsyth Street, where there's been a takeover of a lot of the park facilities in that larger median, and the public recreation areas have been actually gated and shut off from the public due to the activities of drug addicts. I worry about that potentially being an issue. I just put it out there, even though I support the idea.
Fair enough. Okay, Andrew.
I really like the median idea. I think that's good, Gene. It's actually an excellent idea because I think when we can take these spaces and not, alter, again, I know we do it all the time, but to like not alter the actual structure of Park Avenue too much, which is a huge undertaking. To do things like that are small but easily executable, I think is a good use of our time and energy and resources. It just seems like a wasted space just sitting there. I think it's right on point in my view. I think Gina mentioned we ran into each other. I don't know if it's connected, but I would like to see some progress made around Grand Central on was that 43rd Street. Right. I would, I know Colleen's here. I think that I remember personally voicing concern when that started to happen, like, oh, we really got to see that through. And it's sort of a hulking, kind of half completed situation. So I'd love to see that get fixed up, and a project that actually get done before we even take on more projects. Those are my thoughts.
Agreed. And last month when you weren't at the meeting, unfortunately, but DOT did present the redo of Lexington Avenue that they want to do. And we were told that as part of that 43rd Street's generally disliked current state would be upgraded to a better situation. So we weren't given details about that, but I'm depending on Colleen and DOT to supply us with more details as soon as possible so that we can in fact know what it is that we'll be looking after that street, because you're right, it was pretty much universally not loved. Let's put it that way.
Gene, sorry, I'm just reiterating, thank you. I just make the point again, it's in good faith, as we take on more projects, respectfully, the city should complete the ones that are in progress and then move on to new ones, in my humble view.
Agreed. Well, and when they don't, we continue to fire the questions at Colleen and push and prod DOT to go back and do this stuff. So that's what we'll be doing later partly during Colleen's report. So there you go. But I agree with you. Yes, Ronnie.
Thank you, Andrew. That was a very good point. I agree. Especially on the mediums, get rid of all of that underbrush per se. And I would love to see, something to replace it that's also green. But if that's not possible, something that is that would just make it just look very neat and tailored. And of course, keeping the trees And more importantly, for that stretch, including some sort of public art that can be rotated in and out,
Okay.
and lighting.
Yeah, those are all interesting points. Remember, these are spaces that we don't want to overload too. So we can start wherever we want. That's the whole idea of this. We start wherever we want, and then we try to focus and figure out what will actually work, and then we talk to DOT about it. But yeah, I mean, none of those suggestions is wrong. I think probably any people who were alive in the 1950s and 60s and decorated their front yards, or even for that matter, since I live in Stuyvesant Town, the people who built this place, who had English ivy covering everything here until about 15 years ago, right? Larry, he's nodding. Those people would take serious exception to you calling that whatever you call it, brush.
Underbrush.
Underbrush.
I keep imagining just rats just scurrying underneath there.
It's English ivy, which is worse than brush, actually, for my money. I take brush. But you know, those are things, again, that we would have to, I agree that it would need to be redone. There is an organization, I'm pretty sure, that tends this thing. So we would have to talk to them about that, because I don't have any idea what kind of proprietorship they have over it yet. This is all just starting. But agreed. At the same time, I wouldn't want to strip it out. I think that there's one of the things I'll get to later is the need to increase green and permeable surfaces and all that stuff in this district. And so I have no real desire to change these medians into something drastically different. To change the plantings, yes. Make some sort of a path out of dirt and ashes, yes. Put maybe some low impact seating in there in a couple of spots, yes. But I don't want to go too far with it, because I think we need the space and the permeability. And one reason I'm looking at this at all, just to finish it up, is that as many of you are probably aware, I think it's next year that the train shed north of Grand Central starts to get ripped up, because otherwise it'll fall down. So Park Avenue up into the 50s is going to be ripped up, and then so they can rebuild the train shed, and then redone. And of the various plans I've seen circulating from DOT and elsewhere, one of the components that's going to change is there's going to be more green and more pedestrian space to circulate on that avenue after the redo. So I'm thinking that since that's going to happen north of it, it'd be nice for our people south of it to have a little taste, at least, of a similar sort of replanning of our piece of this Grand Central area that's being completely redone. After all, it's the reason we're looking at the east side as well. All of this is going to eventually be largely pedestrianized, I hope. And so that's the larger context that we're looking at this entire thing within. Okay. B, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I actually like the idea, but I had a couple of questions which I don't think you have the answers to. Knowing who's responsible for maintaining it, whether they're a nonprofit, which I assume, how they get their funding, what type of insurance would they need if you then make it into a pedestrian. I mean, there's all these business questions.
That's right.
If you do it. And I think perhaps we need to do a little more research. The concept is great, but we do have to know what's really being done there and the liabilities.
Totally agree. Like I said, I just went up there the last few days, and only found out that there was a group that takes care of this thing. At least so I was told. I have to do the research and find out who they are. Somebody in Kips Bay. I'm not sure which Kips Bay organization it is. If anyone else knows, shoot me an email.
And is that part of the bid at all?
I don't know. These are all things that we have to find out again. That's why what we're doing now is just exploring ideas. And then, as you rightly say, we have to connect the ideas to reality and make them work. So that's what we'll be doing. Okay, Matt.
All right. So to answer a couple of the questions regarding the Park Avenue median. So they are maintained by the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association, which of course I serve as a vice president of. It's also branded as the patrons of Park Avenue at times. So they're one and the same. The funding generally comes from the buildings on Park Avenue that make donations to the patrons of Park Avenue under the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association. that money gets put back into the greenery and plants and a whole bunch of other things. So, in recent years, funding has decreased. Some of the buildings just haven't been able to make as big of a donation as they have at other times. So that's generally the vehicle for the funding. I also will say, like, it hasn't been announced publicly, and I can't go into details, but there is a public art display in the works. It's just, depending on, just waiting for city approvals. But there will be some sculptures in the very near future.
All right, thank you, Matt. That was really, really good information. So the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association with you as VP and the patrons of Park Avenue. And so you and I should talk. And I'll get a little more info out of you, and we'll run this around, and then we can talk in the committee next month about it. Great. Okay, Anne.
So, Matt, thank you. That was, in fact, super helpful and kind of answered some of the questions that I had. Because I was going to say, like, if we're going to change the plantings, we need somebody to own that. But Jean, you kind of raised a question. Okay, I actually have two things. One is just got to get it in there if we're going to talk about where we might find open space in the district, UN Gardens, right? Like we just need to keep remembering that and pushing on it. And I know it's not really a transportation issue, but it's the biggest potential chunk of green space in the district. So every time we're going to talk about it, I'm going to raise it.
You don't have to. Excuse me. You don't have to. Kevin O'Keefe, the chair of Parks, and I have been talking about that space for a while. Kevin is all over it. It's Kevin's job at Environments and Parks.
Right.
That's that. He'll be doing that.
Okay. So the other thing, though, I would say is not for tonight, but maybe for our for next, for our next meeting. Could we get a little bit more detailed presentation on what's happening on Park Avenue north of Grand Central? And no,
It's not our district. You can find everything I was talking about online under DOT and various other things. There was a design competition a couple of years ago about this. It's not that hard to turn up the information about what things might be like.
Cool. I mean, it just seems relevant. Like if Grand Central, like I know it's adjacent, but it just might be nice to know what's going on. So, but I'll Google it myself. That's fine.
Maybe it's some point when we have absolutely nothing to do and have an hour or something to spare for something like that. But right now we're just sort of jammed for business, which is my main concern, since it's not something we're facing directly, and since it's not happening, right now. I'd rather just let that slide. Everybody, you can find it again. Look at DOT; they've got stuff on their site, or at least they did. Colleen, I believe they still do, about the replanning of Park Avenue. And there's other stuff. There was a design competition again 2 years ago that you can find that has various people's reimaginings of what Park Avenue could be like under it. So, and I can dig back through my email, and if I find and files, and if I find that stuff, I'll be happy to send it out to everybody, because I did look at it. I don't know if I saved it. Okay. Ronnie.
There's so many great points. And I just want to say that I'm so glad to hear that there's going to be some consideration for some sort of art or something there. And just comes from trying to extend that south on Park. And also with the new area at One Vanderbilt, that reminds me of what Anne just brought up. And south of 42nd on Park, where they have the seating, if that can be incorporated somehow and make all of it cohesive, I think that would be very nice. Thank you.
Well, Ronnie, I'll suggest that you think about that and come in with some ideas about it for next month. How that might be done, what it might look like, where you would want it. Since you have the concept, it's on
No
you.
problem. Okay, no problem.
Andrew,
Sorry, it's jolted here. I just wanted to say I like the idea of I know it was before of a design contest, and again, if it fits into this process, we're talking about that median area, assuming that we do get to a point where we have to again come up with something. I actually like the idea of asking the city to have a design contest. You know, whether it could be from students, it could be from could be with international firms, right? I'm open to different ideas, but I think that I can't recall the last time, Gene, that we actually like push for something like that. Not that we wouldn't, but you know, cities around the world do it, and it's a great way to engage not just again the public, but you know, different companies for a vision of a very iconic space. You know, I think that I love as much as I love DOT and I love the people that work there. I think that for something so important, you could get some visionary ideas from even around the world. I think we should really consider that carefully.
it's a good point. I've noted it down. Thank you. Absolutely. Okay. Does anybody else have any thoughts or reactions? Anything? I mean, we were talking about the median mostly. Anybody have anything about those streets east of Grand Central? Guess not. Okay. Try to keep in mind, it'd be good to take a look at them. We could think about treating them all the same, doing all shared streets. Remember that these streets don't go anywhere. They dead end into Grand Central Terminal. Two of them going westbound and the other two go eastbound. So they come off Lex and go to Third. We're not losing a lot of traffic viability by doing things to these streets. And we are immensely helping the pedestrians who are jammed into tiny spaces as they try to get around that district. So that's one of the main reasons for doing this. Okay, Larry.
Not very long ago, there was a pilot program which included a platform that was built outside of Le Pen Quotidien, and that, of course, seems to have morphed into the open restaurants and the open streets. That particular kind of a raised platform that supports the drainage underneath still strikes me as being attractive and maybe something we might want to speak about again. I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay, well, if you have any pictures or anything like that of that situation, that would be helpful. You bring them in next month, or bring us in something that looks like that next month, and talk about how you would want to use it, and we'll take a look at it.
Larry,
Well,
it's Colleen.
I'll have to see. I will have to see if. I'm sorry, Colleen. Do you have pictures of those?
I was just going to say, are you talking about our street seats? Which restaurants?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that still a program?
Yeah, and it's very successful. We work with the business owners to implement them, or to install them, and they maintain them. They maintain it for us.
I defer to Colleen.
Yeah, we have a whole, I'll send you the link tomorrow, Larry and Jean.
Great. Why don't you just send it to the entire committee, Colleen? That would help.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great program.
Okay, Ronnie.
This is very exciting. Going back to Larry's part, I thank you for that clarification. I didn't understand exactly what that was, but speaking of drainage, I have thought about that, and there are pavers and architectural products that can be incorporated, and with any sort of new plantings that may be considered, that will take care of the drainage and any sort of water collection. It really may not be noticeable, but that was something else that I wanted to. I think that should be considered as an upgrade. And as far as the side streets, I was going to blurt out, Jean, but I didn't want to do that. Just something, again, to delineate and create a cohesiveness. So that's all.
Again, Ronnie, you've got an idea, sketch it out for us. Let's see it.
But I'll send product information.
Okay, that'd be great. Okay, I think at least we've gotten a start on this. Like I said, I expect this discussion to go on for at least a couple, 3 months, because we're starting very abstractly. It's not quite like Third Avenue redo, where there were some specific ideas and immediate needs. This is a little more like we can try to figure out what it is that we think would be the best thing to do for a sort of longer term vision of the place. So let's leave it there. Everybody put your walking shoes and your thinking caps on, and see what you can come up with, so I can give you assignments like I just gave Ronnie and Larry and other people. I mean, this time you guys get to do a lot of the heavy lifting, not me and Sam Schwartz. How's that? Okay. Let's move on to Colleen's report then. Colleen, you're on.
Colleen's report. Jean, this is your night. What a great idea and you're thinking of with the Park Avenue malls. It reminds me of the Broadway malls as well, where there are seatings. And I do see, when I go to my CB7 meetings, I see pedestrians sitting out there reading their newspaper or having a cup of coffee and so forth. Although theirs is not like in the middle of the median, it's more parallel to the intersection, but it's a great place for you to stop off and just sit and just, enjoy the moment. But it's a great idea and you're thinking of moving forward with it. Let's see, what do I have? So our Third Avenue sidewalk extension, as I mentioned to you, that is still being reviewed by the various divisions. As soon as we have something, we will come to the community board. I'm hoping it'll be next month. I will push, so we can come to the community board and give our report on that, or, maybe a short presentation on it. Borough Commissioner Pinkar, he's been out for a few days, so I'll follow up with him about that. And the other thing is that we're grateful to the 17th precinct. We had a very, very successful mitigation plan for cyclists and for traffic when the UN General Assembly was in session. And I think we're going to continue with that plan moving forward. We didn't have any issues with outdoor dining. That's because counterterrorism worked with the restaurants on that initiative. So it was really, really good. And the other thing is that we continue to mill and pave the streets in the community board district. Our milling and paving season is ending soon, wrapping up soon, as well as our markings. So again, if you have any issues or complaints, please forward it to Brendan or to myself, and we'll get it resolved.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions for you. Those
Sure.
the Eps Pedestrian Signals that we'd asked for, is there any movement on those? I know they weren't starting installation yet, or they paused installation. You were looking for a contractor, something like that. Is there any forward motion on those?
We are still awaiting for a contractor to be identified for that. So we have quite a few work that's still pending. I can check with our signals division and I'll get back to you on the latest with that.
That'd be great. And the Second Avenue bike lane studies that we asked for, any chance that those are going to happen this year?
Let me follow up with Ted Wright and his group about that. And
I demand absolutely that we have those studies this year. He'll jump, I'm sure.
Yeah. I will follow up with him.
Yeah. I've known Ted for a long time, but that doesn't mean he's going to jump. Okay, thank you. Yes, Larry, you have your hand up.
This is another opportunity for Ted to coordinate with the ESCR crew. I raised this question last month. North of 18th Street up to 20th Street, what is going to be the bicycle mitigation when the construction moves south of 20th Street and they're building the flood wall between 18th and 20th Street?
So we continue to have conversation with DDC about that. We are going to work on a mitigation for that. I don't know what that will be, but once we've identified that, we're going to share that with the working group of the ESCR, and we'll also share it with the community board. But I know my colleague Hayes has been closely monitoring, the routes as part of the ESCR project.
I know Jean's probably also interested in this. If
Of
you
course.
could do some brainstorming, and Jean has a bird's eye view on what's going on, and I also use the area, so any opportunity for us to help brainstorm before there's a formal presentation would be welcome.
Okay, thanks, Larry. Phil, you have your hand up.
Yes, I do, Jean and Colleen. We have a question from the public from Mrs. Podolsky, who is a PS59 parent. She's inquiring about the joint resolution that we passed with education about this time last year, making East 56th Street a school play street. She wants to know what the status of it.
Hey, great. So Phil, just to let you know, I've been in communication with Councilmember Power's office about this, as well as the school. So it appears that the application that they filled out was incorrect. I forwarded the correct application to them, and I put them in touch with the appropriate person at DOT to move forward with this, just so you know.
Thank you. I will let Mrs. Podolsky know.
Yes, please. And I will let the community board know as well, the outcome of it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Phil.
Okay, thanks, Phil. And I think I don't see any further questions. So I spoke 1 second too soon. Andrew, you're smiling.
Actually, it's new. Actually, sorry, it's new business. New business. Was I too quick?
Okay.
Ask it, Andrew.
Well, I need you, Colleen. Colleen needs you for this.
Colleen needs me for this.
So, Gene, so I want to propose, this may seem minor, but it's been bothering me for like years, and I always forget to raise it in this meeting, and I'm finally doing it. I feel a sense of relief. So, Colleen,
your still photograph, you look so relieved. It's unbelievable. Go ahead.
No, actually, you can see. Sorry, I'm working here. I'm very relieved.
You still look the same.
I'm not. I know I look the same. So I have always been bothered by the Mitchell Place bus stop. And the reason I'm bothered by the Mitchell Place bus stop is that in the naming system, okay, it doesn't make any sense that we have an express bus stop or any bus stop that's named Mitchell Place when it really just it should be named 50th Street, First Ave, 50th Street. And I know it seems like probably comical what I'm saying, but if you're not from Manhattan or sort of our neighborhood, you've never heard of Mitchell Place. It's totally out of line with the rest of the numbering system of our bus stops. I just don't think it would be such a huge deal. I think it would actually be helpful if we renamed the stop 50th Street, or if people are so in love with honoring Mitchell Place, calling it like Mitchell Place 50th Street. But I just think that it's kind of annoying, and I feel like it's not a big deal to fix that.
Yeah,
Colleen, if you have a reason why it's called Mitchell Place, please.
You know what? I don't have a reasoning, and I don't know why, but I would imagine that MTA would, because they're the ones who, name the assigned stops. And I would imagine in Mitchell Place is just an iconic area, kind of like Astor Place. I mean, just to throw that out there. The community would know more than I would on that and the history of Mitchell Place. I mean, the buildings there are beautiful.
I don't doubt, by the way, I don't doubt the historical importance of Mitchell Place. I love to walk around there. I love to go to Ophelia, the bar that's on Mitchell Place right now on the roof of that building. It's cool, but I think it's very confusing for people, honestly, that we have a bus stop called Mitchell Place, because like 99% of people that ride that bus don't know what Mitchell Place is.
Well, the street is called Mitchell Place as well, where the bus stop. Yeah.
Right, but it's also really at 50th Street. It's in the middle of 50th and Mitchell. So I just feel like maybe, Gene, I'd like to propose in a future meeting that we come up with a resolution.
Not going to do that.
50th Street.
Not going to do that. Let's start from the more obvious direction. Brendan.
Brendan, let's reach out to the MTA and ask them.
Exactly. Let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the people who named it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I don't know if there's a reason perhaps that the MTA hasn't named Mitchell Place. I can reach out to the MTA.
Right, exactly. Let's see what they have to say first, because it's their name, it's their sign. Let's start there. Okay? Good deal. Anne.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I totally agree with Andrew. And, part of the issue is it's quaint, whatever, Astor Place, Union Square, it's great. But Mitchell Place is not so well known. And the other thing is that the bus stop is way closer to 50th Street than it is 49th Street. And in fact, that's an issue. Like the 23rd Street bus stop is like 25th Street, basically. So, but this is one where it's just really like, I completely agree. Let's go. Let's reach out to MTA and maybe they'll be like, yeah, no biggie. We'll print a few new signs, but yeah, take it from there.
And Andrew, you're going to get credit for all of this, just so you know.
Listen, I don't need the credit. I just want to be on a bus that says 50th Street.
It'll say 50th Street / Andrew Gross Place. Okay,
Andrew,
Larry.
exactly.
I'm not up to that. I'm not deserving of that. But thank you, Gene.
You're right. You're not deserving of it, but you're going to get it anyway. All right, Larry.
Okay, for your information, Andrew, the way that the bus stops are named are generally the street before the bus stop. So if you were going to do a hyphenated bus stop, it would be 49. It would be Mitchell or 49 hyphen Mitchell Place or Mitchell Place hyphen 49th Street. But it would have the same kind of an effect. It would really help with the wayfinding.
Okay.
I'm just glad, Gene, this is like the only thing that we've done today where everyone agreed.
No, it's not. We passed 2 unanimous resolutions. Anyway, I'm fine with you taking credit for bringing this up, but don't get carried away. Try to keep a grip. Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Colleen about, I don't know, renaming something else or I don't know, putting a bike lane down through the middle of Stuyvesant Town? No, good. Okay, thank you. Colleen, thank you very much. We'll see you next month and expect to hear back from you on the stuff.
Thanks, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, now to move on to, since we already jumped into old and new business, that's fine. Anyway, chair's report, old, new business, whatever. The only thing I've got right now is that I wanted to alert you to the fact that we are starting out on an initiative in the wake of Hurricane Ida to try to look at how we can improve the drainage in our district so that we can mitigate some of the runoff that's flooding things. We have the Anside view. We're down here on the ground. So we're not going to be proposing right away, like we have to redo the entire sewer system, even though we do, because that's not really within our purview. But Kevin and I, Parks and Transportation, will be cooperating on this. Kevin's going to be getting a volunteer from his committee and has already volunteered from this committee to do some background research and start to figure some stuff out about permeable surfaces, which Ronnie just mentioned, increasing greenery, increasing bioswales, any tree pit. Sorry, Marty's not here, is he? Tree, what does he call them? Tree beds. They're tree beds. Tree pits can be bioswales under certain conditions. We can look at areas around parks and try to make sure that those have more permeable surfaces instead of tarring asphalt around them, for example. These are just small scale ideas. I've just started with this. Kevin and I just spoke about it starting literally at the last month's exec. So it's like a week ago. And we're all going to be he's going to be doing the research. I'll do the research. Ann will do the research. Person from his committee will do research. And then gradually we'll filter it back into the committees and actually start looking at things that are possible to do in this district. We'll get a leg up from Carolina Rivera's office, because I spoke to them last week about this, and they have actually asked for approximately 40 mitigating spaces along these lines as a give back from the ESCR stuff that's being done in Carolina's district. They're going to be getting a list of those soon. When they get the list, I'll get the list. And then we will pass it on and start to be able to talk about some of those concrete instances. Other things to think about are green roofs. Any city building is fair game for that, just as a starter. Schools, any other city building. These are things that basically the idea is, as I'm sure many, if not most of you are aware, the problem with the flooding is that our sewage system is not designed, since it's like between 50 and 100 years old. It's not designed to handle that much runoff without taking it right back into the sewage stuff just to begin with, okay? So we get tons of sewage flooding literally into the East River, out into the ocean. That's one problem. Another problem is that the subway's flooded. One of the reasons, there are a lot of different reasons the subway flooded. 7 to 9 inches in 3 hours of rain is one of the main reasons. A couple of the other main reasons is that somebody, in most cases, many cases DSNY, in other cases parks, weren't doing their jobs and cleaning off surface drains. Kevin told me the story of being up at 36th Street by St. Vartan's and himself clearing the drains the day or two after Ida came through. And he said there was like 3 inches of packed, smashed up stuff blocking the entire thing. When that happens, it doesn't even go down into the sewer. It runs across streets and finds the nearest available spaces to go down into, which include basements and subway entrances. MTA has to do a better job of cleaning their drainage because they have been extremely lax about that. You know, the surface stuff, I haven't seen stats on the MTA stuff yet. I'm still looking, but the surface stuff, Scott Stringer's office released a study that says something like 400 major drains hadn't been cleared before Ida hit, which certainly added to the difficulties we had. So our idea is not to, again, we're only a community board. We're not the city council. We're not the state legislature. So we can't go big on like, we need the entire sewer system replaced, at least not yet. But we can try to start to find ways, smaller ways that are efficient and effective that'll at least help stop that kind of rampant flooding, because as we all know, thanks to climate change, this is not going to be happening once every year, once every 10 years. It's going to be happening more and more frequently. And when that happens, the subway system this time recovered in a day. God love them. It was a lot of work, but they did it. When it happens 3 times in a row inside of 3 weeks, that's going to stop happening. They're not going to be able to recover in a day. It's going to be too much water, too much problems. So now's a good time to start thinking about that. This is a longer term project. We're not expecting to pass a reso on this next month or even this year necessarily, but we do want to look into it because it's kind of essential to the survival and health of the people in our district. So questions, I see a couple of hands up. Ronnie.
My hand was up. I was going to bring the point up about debris mitigation, but you just made that point. And for the roof, you know, we're all doing familiar with the bitumen tar, and the alternative is already well known. A reflective or white roof should be encouraged, and the city and state and the federal government have so many programs that offer incentives to owners to make the necessary upgrades for a building system. And that's the first place you could start. It's also probably the cheapest way that you can upgrade. So any sort of, yeah, so, you know, maybe, you know, so like you say, we don't have to say, you know, all new systems, but, you know, maybe some sort of encouragement and a resource guide on the community website, just to get this in front of people, to have them start thinking about it.
Right.
And also to keep in mind the grading, just because, you know, you have a new construction or any sort of renovation and you make it plumb, that's not going to be helpful if it's not graded properly for draining. That's it. Thanks.
True. But unfortunately, in this case, grading and white roofs are not actually that much of an answer. Most of the streets are graded pretty well. White roofs are good for global warming, but they are not good for absorbing and slowing down the flow of water, which is what this is about.
Well, it is integrated. It's a smart integrated roof. And so you would have that. And going back to the filtration system that I mentioned earlier, installing a system like that will take care of all of that. And you don't have a wasteful runoff. You have a repurposed water. And so it's all integrated.
Okay. Well, if you could bring some of that stuff to the committee's attention, that would be useful too, because I was thinking more green roofs for a lot of different reasons, especially with school buildings. But happy to look at all alternatives. Again, this is a spitballing idea, a spitballing session. We're looking down the road at how to try to start to attack this.
Definitely, and there are so many examples that are already there. You can look at Brooklyn Army Terminal, Brooklyn Navy Yards, Javits Center. Everyone's doing it.
Right. Well, if you could gather some of those together and bring them in for the committee to take a look at, we'd all appreciate it. You're getting a lot of homework, Ronnie.
I work on this every day, you know.
Yeah, no, I know.
Doing okay.
Feeds right into what you do, so it's perfect. Thank you. Okay, Larry.
Quickly amplifying a couple of things that you mentioned, Gene, and one additional suggestion. But one is about grading. You mentioned the MTA and the subway stations. Right at the bottom of the stairwells from the street, there's oftentimes a grading and a drain, which are jammed up with crud, and so you have puddling there that could easily be remedied with more frequent maintenance. Second, you mentioned ESCR, and actually ESCR in our district is doing a major project called Parallel Conveyance, in which the rainwater during a major rain event can be accumulated, so it doesn't go into the standard drainage for the combined sewer outfall. And so when the rain stops, that water can be added into the sewer system slowly, and it won't cause an overflow. And then the additional point that I wanted to suggest is an idea that Solar One had in their first plan for their new building, and that was they were going to build an outdoor rain barrel to show how a building owner could save the water from its rooftop and use it as gray water for its building systems like toilets and the like. It could also be accomplished on a property owner's property below ground in a cistern, which is something that's used in the Caribbean quite frequently, where they don't have very much fresh water.
Okay, well, these are all interesting ideas and good places to start. So let's go back and chew on these as well as part of the going forward homework. This is, like I said, this is not a project that we're going to be wrapping up sometime soon. We're not going to be doing a reso about this in December. This is more forward thinking and a lot more, needs a lot more discussion and rationalization. Yes, Anne. Anne, you have your hand up?
And I was just going to say that, since I'm going to be working with somebody on parks about this, if you want to send me your ideas or links, I see there's somebody sent adopt a storm drain program. If you want to just email me or whatever, any suggestions or resources, that would be greatly appreciated.
I just ask that when you send Ann anything, just CC me on it so that I know what's going on. But yes, excellent idea, Ann. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? I don't see any. Let's see. I wonder if I might hear a motion to adjourn here at 8:37 p.m.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we don't need a second for that. So unless anybody has any objections, we're good to go. Thank you all for the hard thinking and the work. Looking forward to more of it because, yeah, as Kyle said when he took over as community board chair, he wanted these committees not to just function as reactive, but to be proactive and to function a little bit as think tanks. And that is, in fact, over the last year, what we've been doing more and more. It's more work than just saying okay or no to various things that agencies bring in. But on the other hand, I think as we found out, it's also stimulating and rewarding. And we do actually get to have more hands-on appreciation of what it is we're doing with this district. So for our community members and for ourselves. So having said that, we're done. Go home.